roll call, please.
David Nigro,
Present.
Diane Douglas,
Present.
William Gibney,
Here.
Michael Gordon, Dean Howard,
Here.
Mark Sims,
Here.
Sue K. Kneifel,
Here.
Shelley Herbold,
Here.
and Lynn Davison is present.
Thank you. Next is item 1.02, a information item, student presentation to be introduced by Dr. Ricks.
Good afternoon, Board. I'd like to introduce you to our Arizona School for the Blind principal, Kelly Creasy, and she's going to let you know all about Braille Challenge.
Good afternoon, Board President Sims, Superintendent Reichman, Dr. Rex, and members of the Board. On February 13th, we held the annual Arizona Regional Braille Challenge on the Tucson campus. We started out this event with a family celebration on Sunday afternoon. 68 people joined us for dinner and a trip to a local movie theater for an audio-described showing of Lego Batman. This is the first time we had a family event prior to the challenge, and based upon the feedback we received, this will become an annual tradition. 50 students from around the state competed in the challenge. Students represented NCR, EHR, SER, local Tucson school districts, and of course, students from the Tucson campus. Special thanks to our Braille Challenge Committee led by Lisa Yancarelli, Director of Blind Programs, ASDB staff members Peg Hartman, Fred Leslie, Christine Moreno, Debbie Hartz, and Dr. Penny Rosenblum from the University of Arizona. I also want to recognize all of our volunteers from ASDB, Foundation for Blind Children, parents, and local community members. A special thank you to Savvy and Vocational Rehabilitation for sharing your programs with parents and visiting teachers, and Dr. Irene Toper from the University of Arizona, Rajiv Panikkar, Andrea Cook from ASDB, and Colin Grandia, University of Arizona intern, for your low vision simulation. Parents expressed how appreciative they were of being able to experience their child's vision condition for the first time. At this time, I would like to share with you a brief video of the day, and then I would like to invite two of our students to come up and share their experiences with you.
Arizona Regional Braille Challenge logo. Several students laugh and socialize. A girl brailles on a Perkins Brailler. Two girls insert paper into their Braille writers. Parents wearing vision simulating goggles engage in various activities, like piecing together a tangram puzzle, spreading peanut butter on crackers, and slicing an apple. Outside, burgers are flipped on a grill. Two students examine a bomb defusing robot. A staff member hula hoops. Parents wearing goggles play a game of Jenga as the tower spills over. Outside, a boy throws a ball. A girl bounces on a balloon attempting to pop it. In a classroom, staff and students line dance together. Outside, a boy hula hoops while giving a thumbs up. In a room, several students pet service dogs. Superintendent Annette Reichman poses with each of the following students: Leslie Barrera, Perla Montiel, Jamal Stell, Hanezba Lucero, Aurora Seaman, Caleb Cody, Jasmine Martinez, Sierra Peterson, Eva Maria Tenori, Hope Bowden, Isaac Zwinger, Joey Para.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan and I am a sophomore. I would like to speak with you today about the Braille Challenge. I enjoyed the dinner on Sunday evening. It was delicious Mexican food like beans, rice, tacos, guacamole, and chips. This was the first time we had done this before. The Braille Challenge, and I wish we should do it again next year. My favorite Braille test, Braille Challenge test was speed and accuracy, because I like to write fast and compete against other kids. The hardest test was charts and graphs, because it can be confusing to read them. I totally tried my best, and it was a lot of fun. In the afternoon, my favorite activity was the Wacky Olympics. I like spinning the seeds into the basket. The best part of the entire day was that I won an iPad prize, which was an iPad, yeah. Okay. I think kids should participate in the Braille Challenge, because they can have fun and show how well they know Braille.
Hello, my name is Jasmine and I am in 5th grade. I would also like to tell you about Braille Challenge. On Sunday after dinner, we watched a movie, Lego Batman. It was audio described on a speaker for everyone in the theater. My favorite part about going to the movie was listening to the audio description and eating popcorn and fruit snacks. My favorite Braille Challenge test was proofreading, because I got to read different stories and see which sentences had misspellings and uncontracted words. The hardest test was speed and accuracy, because it was hard to listen with all of the people who were typing on their Braille writers. I had to keep pausing because I had trouble writing the words. I worked hard and I had a good time. In the afternoon, my favorite activity was picking out a book. I got A to Z Mystery, The Goose's Gold. I won second place in my category and got a $25 Amazon gift card, which I haven't used yet. I think kids should do Braille Challenge so they can practice Braille and try their best. I also met 5 new kids at Braille Challenge. That was fun too.
I just want to thank the board for this opportunity to celebrate Braille literacy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is item 1.03, information item, museum update by Polly Brady Garcia.
Hello, my name is Polly Garcia. I'm talking about the museum for ASDB. I need my glasses. One moment, please. I'm so sorry. I need to use 2 glasses. I have some blindness. I want to say a few important things. First of all, the National Historical Trail of Arizona, that was in 1912. And ASDB has held a historical display, and that was in Phoenix. And Superintendent Reichman said the Pledge of Allegiance. And that was the first time in history that we had a superintendent finally do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And the Historical Museum at the governor's office in Arizona had requested two things. They requested pictures of Osborne, the Secretary of State, and a certificate about ASDB being involved with that in 1912, a picture of that. I requested a picture of that, and in the archives, we were able to find that picture of Osborne. So I'll frame that and put that in the superintendent's office. It's the original transcript, and it's signed by the Secretary of State, and that was May 19th of 1912. After that, I went to the State Museum Library, and I requested the director that we have a display in ASDB at the State Museum. And the director was very familiar about the history of ASDB. And we actually will be in touch, and there is a request for ASDB to have a committee and have a discussion to select different photographs from history to have them placed in the State Museum. So that will be really very nice for students in Phoenix, especially ASDB students and PDSD students who visit the museum as they go on different tours. So I'm very excited about that. And also to talk about the Anasazi history. It's very close to here, just over in the Wash. As you drive over the bridge, there's different design by students. I'm asking the students to develop a project, and hopefully shortly next week or in the next 2 weeks, there'll be something designed for that to commemorate history. The picture of Osborne was not actually easy to find. I went to the state archives, and they're very strict as far as entrance into there. They have it on the little mimeographs or microfilm, and I had to leave all my personal belongings outside. You couldn't take anything inside, so it was very interesting to go to the archives. And I was saying, I was saying about the ASDB Museum, we still have updates or some updating to do with the history from before 1912. So there's a lot more stories that we don't have here at ASDB, and I'm still researching that. And I will have more time to go up to Phoenix and get more information. And also the Florence Museum has history about ASDB as well. Thank you for having me here. Good afternoon, board. Thank you.
Thank you, Polly. And
This is Shelly. If you could just give me a moment to finish watching. I'm watching through live stream. 1 moment, please.
if anybody hasn't had the chance to visit the museum, they should go. It's really cool. So. Next is call to the public for comment on agendized items. I think there are no comments. So there are no comments, okay? Next, 1.05, executive team reports. We start with Business Services, Richard Valdivia.
Just a reminder, state your name clearly so everyone knows who's speaking, and speak to the microphone.
Superintendent Reichman, President Sims, members of the board. You have my board report for this meeting before you and the attachment. I'd be glad to speak to any questions any of you might have, or if there's any discussion. What I'm going to try and do each meeting is provide you just with a status of where we are, kind of let you know. And as we get closer to the end of the year, obviously things come together, and as we prepare next year's budget and the year after, we provide you with copies of those. But that's the purpose of this. Any questions?
No, thank you, Richard. Appreciate the report.
Thank you.
I have one question. Do we have a call to the public here? Is that after this or before this?
Well, I had the call to the public for agendized items. There were no slips submitted. And then for the non-agendized items, those are at the end of the agenda.
Okay.
Human Resources, Anita Pate.
Good afternoon, Board President Sims, members of the board, Superintendent Reichman, and Dr. Rex. In your board packet, you'll find a copy of the Human Resources Department report. I'd like to take a moment to highlight a couple of items. Currently, we're working on a fundraising event, creating a limited edition pin for the year, where we've involved the students to participate by providing artwork that we can put into a pin and sell. And so right now we are doing that through a survey to see who wins, and so we're excited about that. The other thing is we are just sent out letters a couple weeks ago to our staff to let us know if they're returning back for next year, so we can forecast recruitment. And we've started recruiting. We've attended the Gallaudet job fair, as well as a couple here in the state at the local universities, and so we're geared up for a year of recruiting. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? I would just say it would probably be helpful in the report to just put the number of vacancies so we can have an idea, like, you know, how many teaching vacancies there are and the like, because, you know, obviously you don't have the teachers, the school really can't do what it needs to do. So that would be, if you could just put that on a running basis for each board meeting, just so we can see.
Not a problem, I'll do that.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Information Technology by Paul Creasy.
Good afternoon. I am Paul Creasy. I'm the IT Director. Board President Sims, members of the board, Superintendent Reichman, Assistant Superintendent Rex. You've been provided a copy of my board report in your packets. And at this time, I'd like to bring your attention and commend Raymond Adams from IT and Nick Going from Media and Communications for their effort and professionalism by providing technical assistance to Arizona Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing in their endeavors to stream their board meetings. At this time, I'd like to answer any questions you may have for me.
Any questions? No, I just say we look forward to the ability to live stream between the two campuses at the next board meeting. That is going to be very exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Kristen Rex, Assistant Superintendent, update on instruction.
Good afternoon, President Sims, Board, and Mrs. Reichman. You have my report based upon PLT, Director of the Deaf Programs, Director of the Blind Programs, my many cooperative directors, as well as my fantastic principals. Do you have any questions?
don't you give us some highlights?
Quick highlight. I wanted to, last fall, you had the opportunity to tour the CTE room at PDSD and saw some of the Paxton Patterson setup. And I wanted to give you a report about the Paxton Patterson program. Paxton Patterson program teaches our students at PDSD career and technical education, along with STEM, which is the science, technology, English, and math standards. They currently are teaching students beginning in the 3rd grade and go up to 9th grade. And as of the end of February, we had 117 students complete actual programs. Some of the programs completed include material processing, computer-aided drafting, forensics, and research and development. This class is definitely striking some enthusiasm on the campus, and we look forward to learning more about the success and how it supports our standards and our learning. I'd also like to share with the board that positions have been posted for our summer transition camp. This is where our VR-eligible deaf and hard of hearing campers from around the state will come here to the Tucson campus and receive transition from school to work as well as leadership programming. So we're very excited about hosting that this June.
Thank you. Next is Media and Communications by Ryan Deschamps.
Board President Sims, members of the board, Superintendent Reichman, guests in attendance. Submitted before you in your board packet is a copy of my submission for Media and Communications for the prior 2 months. And before I open up for any questions, there are a couple things I would love to highlight. We broke a record for us for positive impressions for the agency. On Facebook alone, we had over 100,000 impressions, meaning our videos, our photos, our content's going viral in the deaf and blind community, as well as just greater on the larger stakeholders, overall parents, students. 100,000 on Facebook alone, not counting the website and other things, including press releases. The other thing I'd like to point out is a warm welcome and congratulations to our superintendent, who was recognized from Deaf Life magazine as the Deaf Person of the Month for the month of February. It's a very big honor. It's a magazine run, published, and geared toward people who are deaf and hard of hearing, and has international publication range. So it's a very big honor for not only the superintendent, but for ASDB as a whole. Another thing I'd like to point out that's really exciting is I'm working with Maria Murphy in my team on putting together a Spotlight and Success video that will be highlighting our student successes here at ASDB. People from PDSD, ASB, and ASD, as well as our cooperatives and early childhood program, where we're going to talk about some of our outstanding students who have achieved pretty remarkable things. And so those are some highlights. Any other questions on my board report?
No, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Operations with Terry Pritchard.
Good afternoon, Board President Sims, members of the board, Superintendent Reichman, Assistant Superintendent Rex. My name's Terry Pritchard, Director of Operations. And before you have my report, there's a couple things I'd like to recognize. First, our two mechanics down here in Tucson, Benny Delgado and Jose Rios, had DPS come out mid-January to inspect the buses, and we received 100% on all of them, which we usually do. The other item is we're working with ADOA Capital Planning to get some more air conditioning units replaced on our campuses. To date, so far, we have ASDB Tucson, we have 12 units we've replaced and 1 chiller, and on the Phoenix campus, approximately 22. Can I answer any questions if anybody has any?
Any questions?
This is Shelley Harbaugh.
Yes, Shelley.
I just wanted to thank you for the beautiful tennis courts. It's wonderful. Absolutely beautiful, everything you've done. So I wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That is Steve McManus and the athletic department on PDSD campus as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next is the agency report by Superintendent Reichman.
Good afternoon. I'm President Sims, members of the board. We continue to do the advocacy, the networking with the state legislators. We were able to pass the House Bill 2396 that provided some technical corrections to our statutes in addition to the superintendent's qualifications. I was informed earlier today that the Senate Education Committee just voted on it, passed it, so there's a couple of more steps before it gets to the full vote by the Senate. But we're hopeful. It looks like it will happen, and then we'll have it ready for the governor's signature. So that's a big thing that's happening right now. The second thing that we're doing is we're getting into the strategic planning. I didn't provide a whole lot of information because we're still in the beginning stages, but we just had our second meeting on February 22nd. We had something like 56, 57 people from all over the state come together into one room and have a conversation about what our strategic planning should look like. Now, I don't know if this has happened in the past. Maybe it has, but I know a lot of people in the room didn't know each other, so it was an opportunity for them to kind of get a sense, okay, we are an agency. We're not just the individual units that we work in. So I think that was really important for us. We decided to add an extra meeting that we weren't planning on originally for March 30th. And the reason for that was we couldn't agree on operating principles. And what we mean by operating principles, and I'm still learning what it means myself, but it seems to mean that it's how we do business. When we talk about operating principles, are we talking about transparency? Are we talking about collaboration? Are we talking about integrity? I mean, there's a whole list of things that we can pick from. We want to pick 3. We couldn't come to a consensus about that. So we're having an additional meeting to have a consensus on what our operating principles will be. So I will keep you informed on that process. See, anything else? I think that's sufficient for now.
Any questions?
This is Shelley Harvold. We are having some issues with the audio. I'm watching live stream, so if you give me just one moment to catch up.
Did you have difficulty with my voice?
I believe it's the microphone.
Okay, it's probably me not speaking close enough to the microphone. I was just talking about the strategic planning process, and we're now working on identifying, selecting 3 operating principles that the agency will agree to use as our model for how we do business.
Great,
Okay.
thank you so much. We are up to speed.
I think there's a lag, so there's a little bit of a lag. So. Okay, thank you very much. I assume the operating principles are for the Strategic Planning Committee, correct? Or is it for the whole agency? The whole agency?
Yeah, the whole
Mark,
agency.
What
Yes.
was the answer to your question?
Yes.
Okay. Well, those are good things to figure out, I would say. Can you distribute the schedule of the whole strategic plan to the board. What the timeline is and what the meeting dates are.
Be happy to do that.
Thank you. Next is 2.01, consent agenda items. Approval of the consent agenda consistent with board policy to include items 3.01, 4.01, 5.01, 5.02, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6.02, and 6.04.
President Sims,
Yes.
this is Diane Douglas. I'd like to pull 501 through 509, please.
Okay, so all of the hirings, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
Any others?
President Sims, clarification, this is Dean Howard.
Yes.
Was that 5.01 through 5.09, correct?
Correct. That's all of the 5 items. In other words, all of the hirings, the renewals of contract. So,
Okay, my interest was in 5.06, so it's being pulled off the consent. Okay, just
Correct.
double checking.
So we have a motion, so it must be 6.03, not 6.04, correct?
Yes.
Yes, there's an error in 2.01. It should say 6.02 and 6.03, not 6.04. 6.04 is an action item, 6.03. So, okay, we have a motion on the table. Any other additions to that to remove from the consent agenda?
I second the motion as it stands.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. So what we have on the table right now is a consent for 3.01, 4.01, 6.02, and 6.03. Do we have a motion to approve those?
I move to approve the
3.01, 4.01, 6.02, and 6.03. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So next we will, thank you. We will go to item number 5.01. Consent, or item intent to offer fiscal year 2018 employment contract to Pia Benson, Regional Director, SER. Dr. Rex?
President Sims, this is Diane Douglas.
Yes.
The reason I pulled these in a group is that I have no information at all about the employment contract, what the terms and conditions might be. So if we're not being provided that information, I'm going to abstain from the vote. No disrespect to any of the people the contracts are being offered to, but I think it's important that this board review those issues.
So you want to, your question, just to clarify, Superintendent Douglas, is that what you're looking for specifically is the actual contract, employment contract. Is that correct?
Or at least an overview in each case of the major terms and conditions.
Okay.
Right now, all I have is an executive summary overview that says a contract will be issued to. So I'm going to abstain under those circumstances. I have no objection to them being moved in a block if someone chooses to do that.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure we can do it in that manner. I think we actually need to go through each one at this point.
President Sims, would it be appropriate to go into executive session should there need to be any discussion on any of these matters?
Perhaps, yes. I'd agree. So,
I would like to move to go into executive
Okay.
session to discuss items 5.01 to 5.09.
I second that.
all right.
Okay, pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1, the Board of Directors may vote to go into executive session, which will not be open to the public, for the purposes of discussion and consideration of employment matters as it relates to agenda items.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
We'll go into executive session. Whoop. Oh, I'm already off.
Ladies and gentlemen, the audio feed of the live stream will go live in 10 seconds. Thank you.
I like it. It's so light. That's the beauty.
We are live.
Okay, we're back in open session. We're going to go through to item number 5.01, intent to offer fiscal year 2018 employment contract to Pia Benson. We're going to need motions.
I so move.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Diane Douglas, I'm abstaining.
Okay, so Diane Douglas abstained. Okay. Next, 5.02, intent to offer fiscal year 2018 employment contract to Jane Macdonald.
I so move.
Second.
Second by Lynn. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Superintendent Douglas abstained, correct?
Correct.
Intent to offer fiscal year 2018 employment contract to Ruth Parsons.
I so move.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Superintendent abstained. Douglas abstained. Any
Correct.
opposed? Okay. Intent to offer fiscal year 2018 employment contract to Dr. Wemi Walls.
I so move.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Superintendent Douglas abstained. Anybody opposed? 5.05, intent to offer fiscal year 2018 employment contract to Justin Rice.
I so
So
move.
move.
All right. And a second by Lynn.
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Superintendent Douglas abstained. Any opposed? Fiscal, 5.06, intent to offer fiscal year 2018 employment contract to Barbara Schrag.
So move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Lynn Davison, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Superintendent Douglas opposed, abstained. Anybody opposed? Okay. Fiscal year, intent to offer fiscal year 2018 employment contract to Shelley Camp.
Do we need a motion not to offer it?
Yes.
I would move that we don't renew her contract.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Anybody opposed? Superintendent Douglas abstained.
Correct?
Consent, intent to offer fiscal year employment contract to Dr. Kelly Creasy? To Kelly Creasy, I'm sorry.
I so move.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Superintendent Douglas abstained.
Correct?
Offer fiscal year 2018 employment contract to Courtney Fritz.
I so move.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Superintendent Douglas abstained.
Correct.
Okay. Next, 6.01, information item. Introduction and possible discussion of policies JEB, JFABC, JFABD, JFBA, JFC, JH, JHB, JHCB, JHD, JIA, and JI. I feel like a FedEx commercial.
Well, you don't know your alphabet very well.
I know.
Good afternoon, Board President Sims, members of the board, Superintendent Reichman, Dr. Rex. This is Maria Murphy. You have before you the proposed red lines.
Maria, this is the interpreter. Can you speak closer to the microphone, please?
Certainly. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Should I start from the beginning?
No, go ahead. Just continue.
Okay.
Please do.
Okay. You have before you the policies. I would like to say that we actually do have one public comment, and that is in regards to policy JHD, chronic health conditions. And we did receive one comment requesting that we add psychiatrists and ophthalmologists to the list of qualified medical providers. I'm sorry, appropriately certified health professionals is what's used. With that, I'm available for questions.
Are you in agreement to that addition?
I think that it falls under appropriately certified health professionals, but I do not see the harm in adding ophthalmologist or psychiatrist.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I did not
What
receive it.
specific policy is this one?
This is policy JHD. It's also numbered J-1950, exclusions and exemptions from school attendance, subtitled chronic health conditions.
Thank you.
Do we have an emotion? Oh, no, that's just a introduction and possible discussion, right? So
Yes.
we can go on. Okay. 6.02 and 6.03 have been on the consent agenda. 6.04, action item approval of the donations. Are there any questions or comments regarding the donations? Substantial amount of money from the Arizona Blind and Deaf Children's Foundation. It's very generous.
I move that we accept the donations as listed.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Aye.
Next item is 6.05, discussion of possible action item. I asked to add this to the agenda. I would like the board to consider the addition of an ombudsman to the agency on the board level, meaning an ombudsman that reports to the board. There are things brought to the board, and we need somebody to kind of mediate these and the like. I think the usual function of the ombudsman, frankly, is going to be take it back to the agency and go through the usual channels. And people will need to demonstrate to the ombudsman that they actually have already gone through those appropriate channels before bringing things to the board. At my time of the board, the complaints have been as varied as the food in the cafeteria is terrible, to significant employment concerns. But I do think given the past of the agency, there needs to be a sense of somewhere for people to turn in terms of how to get to the board and being able to bring grievances to the board. But on the flip side, I think if we have somebody who's independent of the board, who people can come to, and that person can kind of weigh in or assess it and maybe even have some insight into our processes, that would be of a worthwhile contribution. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Yes, President Sims, Diane Douglas. I agree with the idea. I think it is an excellent idea. The email that the board received, it was challenging from a standpoint if we all had answered it.
Correct.
What problem would that create if we have one centralized location? My question is, this ombudsman would be for employees, but also for parents and community members?
Correct.
For all of them?
Correct. So, you know, it's basically a way for people to come to the board and make the board aware of issues, but having somebody, one, who can do exactly what you're talking about outside of the open meetings issues to be able to address those issues, because there might be materials of a confidential nature, and also to give the public, so there's actually an ombudsman for the state of Arizona. If you have a problem, you can go to that ombudsman's office and they can resolve things. And we actually could look into using them as our resource as well, or getting our own ombudsman. But I think you're right on, Superintendent Douglas, in terms of the intent. If parents are having an issue, they have a place to go. You know, the history of the agency as of late, we're moving beyond it, but on the flip side, we have to look back and see what we need to do to prevent it, or to give people a feeling, not a feeling, an actual ability to express their issues. And I'm not saying that the administration is not receptive to that. I just think we need multiple pathways for that information to be shared and actioned on.
President,
Go ahead, Diane.
yes, I agree wholeheartedly. We have an ombudsman at ADE, and we find oftentimes just that people have a point of contact and can get accurate information, it heads off many problems in cases.
Great. Well, maybe
If we were to vote this
Go.
in, what would be the next step? What would be the process?
I think the next process would be for somebody to liaise with the administration to kind of find a way, you know, because there's technical things, right? You need to be able to figure out how to remunerate this person. I mean, in terms of how they work, I think that that's our decision, but in terms of finding a person and kind of formulating something, so I'm going to actually ask Bill and Diane to maybe take that on and get together and come up with a recommendation of however far you can take it by the next time the board gets together. That would be, you know, figuring out what they do, who that could be, how we could pay for it, et cetera, et cetera. So as far as you guys can get, then we would put on an agenda item for you guys to update us. Maybe by then you'll have an answer. In my mind,
I'd be happy to do that.
right?
I'd be glad to do that.
Right. In my mind, it would be great if at the beginning of the next school year, one of the things we're explaining to the whole community is that this entity exists and it's a mechanism for people to seek relief. I think, frankly, oftentimes they might not like the answer, but they get the process and they get to be able to share the information. I think that's really important. And then they don't see it as the board saying, you know, they don't want anything. Not that we're perfectly willing to tell them that, but I think having somebody looking at the overall processes would be helpful.
I move that we continue to look into the process.
Okay?
I second that.
I'll second the motion.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, great.
Aye.
The next is just another discussion of possible action item. I'll just tell you, I just finished serving on my Academy's Ethics Committee, and the mantra of the chairwoman was, everybody's a volunteer. So as I start talking about these other board functions, just remember, everybody's a volunteer. So the other two committees, subcommittees I think we need is, one is a finance subcommittee. We don't have the ability to explore some of these issues within the context of a board meeting, but I think it would be good to have some board members who would want to explore those issues. I will tell you on a regular basis, I am asked by stakeholders, where does all the money go? And I'm not saying it's misspent, but I can tell you as a person who's been on the board for over 3 or 4 years, I can't even remember now, I can't tell them. And the point of the matter is we need to understand the resources of the agency and where they're all going. So I'm hoping some people can go, delve further, redact the information and bring it back to the board and the whole community to understand how the agency works. And this is not a slight on Richard, because he is You know, you can even look at his presentation. He's trying to do that, but I think it would be better if it's driven by the questions that the people on the board have. I asked Mike Gordon if he would lead this. He's had many questions about resources, and I also asked Dean Howard if he would work on this as well. If there's anybody else who would like to work on it, there is a Policies and Procedures Committee coming up too. So if anybody else, I think if we have 3 on this, then 2 would make every meeting.
President Sims,
Yes?
Diane Douglas, my background is in finance. I would love to serve on this committee.
We would love you too, Diane.
Thank you.
Great. All right, so
I would not like to serve on the committee, but I think it's really important.
agreed.
I've been asked that question several times, and I don't know how to answer it.
I love your honesty, Bill. You just want to see the executive summary so you can answer the question,
There you go.
which is exactly what I would like as well. So that will be a committee. Dean, did I get your approval? I didn't hear it.
Yes.
Okay, so that would be Mike Gordon, Dean Howard, and Diane Douglas. And that would be, my suggestion to you would be to meet virtually, meaning you just all call into a conference call and have conversation, or a go-to meeting or something, not where you all collect, especially given the geography with Mike Gordon in southern Arizona and the other 2 members in the Phoenix metropolitan area. The other one would be a Policies and Procedures Committee. As you notice, we continue to go through all of these policies and procedures, and I would ask that there be a committee where people kind of look at these ahead so we could know what information we might want, et cetera. So to essentially bring to the board an idea of whether or not, you know, as a subcommittee, they've kind of looked at this. You know, I think a perfect example was that land issue that we had where David was asking, you know, how is the valuation done? I think that's a great question, and we didn't have the answer. So if we kind of look at this stuff ahead of time, then perhaps we can bring that information. And I don't think it's necessarily fair to expect the administration to have ESP and know what we're going to ask. So the point of this committee would be to do these types of policies and procedures. What other things, like Diane's question today, can we see the contracts of the employees, et cetera? So I'd ask David to lead that committee, and like I said, everybody's free to volunteer. So I would need 1 or 2 more people to be on that committee.
I would be interested.
Okay, Suke, I appreciate that. Diane, you're not looking for 3 committees?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't think I'm going to do the trifecta today.
Oh, I had put money on that. I'm kidding. All right, so as of now, it is going to be 2 members with a 3rd member to be named later. I'll leave, David, the recruitment up to you.
Very well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, do we need a motion to create these committees?
We do.
I move that the board create committees to make recommendations and oversee policy revisions and finance.
Okay.
The 2 committees.
I second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is a call to the public for non-agendized items. Leticia, have there been any additions besides these 2? Okay, so we have 2 items. They were submitted at the same time. So the first one is Dylan Saunders wants to discuss driver class for deaf students, road rules, and ASL teacher.
Hello, everyone. I would like to request that you consider looking at hiring teachers or someone in that same position for driver's classes for students. Students who want to drive, we want them to have their license and they're ready to drive before they graduate so that they can be independent. Thank you. I know there are no teachers now currently that teach the class, so I would like you to consider looking at hiring someone for that type of position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Donald Weeks, is it? Hazel Weeks? I don't, Reading and Language for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Students and Campus Code. Okay. Since there were only two, he was the other one.
Hello, my name is Ronald Hazlett Weeks, and I have two items I want to talk about. The first one I want to talk about is literacy for deaf and hard of hearing students. Deaf and hard of hearing students do struggle all over Arizona with reading and writing, and I often wonder who's teaching them these skills in the classroom and what method the teachers are teaching them in. I think it's important that well, I would like to suggest that maybe there is a program that would be set up to hire a dual language instructor for the students who would be able to, you could hire someone who would teach the deaf and hard of hearing students these literacy skills so that we can help increase their skills with the language and knowledge in ASL and in English. For example, deaf and hard of hearing students, they can be taught by other deaf and hard of hearing individuals as hearing students are taught literacy. So a dual language teacher could actually analyze and develop a curriculum for deaf and hard of hearing students to teach them so that they can start to read and write, and that could actually start at the age of 2. I'm also concerned about campus here at ASDB in the buildings. Something I want to talk about is campus code. And the superintendent, I believe, can facilitate this as far as like building designs, more distinguished colors, the roof, the windows, and including landscaping. Also about the old vocational building, the roof there, the old red roof there, it still can be utilized. And also I think it's important that the deafblind kitchen be saved, and some items be moved into the museum. But if we're repurposing the building, saving the deafblind kitchen, and maybe transitioning, maybe a new design for different classrooms. ASDB history has been standing strong for many years. Thank you so much for your time and attention, Board, and Superintendent Reichman and Assistant Superintendent Rex. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We've come a long way. People are under 3 minutes on their own volunteer mechanism. Boy, we have really come a long way. Okay, item number, before I do the next agenda item, I would like to thank the interpreters and all of the technical staff that make this broadcast and this going to multiple locations and streaming. They do a great job. I mean, when you really think about it, all we do is hear them say the mics are on, and that's it. So it's seamless, and they do a great job, and we very much appreciate their efforts. Thank you. So. Okay, the favorite agenda item, 8.01, adjournment.
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
All right, well, Bill, you stay on. We'll be back on shortly. Thank you, everybody.
Cute, Bill.
Good meeting, guys.
Thank you.